What is up? This year, LA in a minute, and I'm here at Runyon Canyon Park, also known as Runyon Canyon, which is LA's most popular hike, visited by almost 2 million people each year. Now, it's 160 acres with 3 different hiking trails, but what I really wanted to know was, who is Runyon, and how did this get to be LA's most popular hike? Let's get into it. So Runyon Canyon was originally known as No Man's Canyon, just a huge gorge stretching from Franklin Canyon to Mulholland. But before that, it was known as Nopalera to the indigenous Tongva Gabrieleño Quiche people who used the area as a seasonal campsite as well as a hunting ground for thousands of years. In 1867, Yorgos Karalambo, aka Greek George, a camel driver from Asia Minor who came to the United States to run the Camel Corps for the U.S. government, was granted the 160 acres and became the first private owner of what is now Runyon Canyon. Another interesting note on Greek George, he became famous for a complete other incident when the Mexican-American bandit Tiburcio Vasquez was captured at his house in 1874. Now, the Tiburcio Vasquez story is another huge story, but Greek George, famous by association for that, as well as being the first private owner of Runyon. After Tiburcio Vasquez was hanged in 1876, Greek George sold the property to Alfredo Solano, a civic leader, a civil engineer, and a patron of the symphonies in a burgeoning Los Angeles. Solano held the land as an investment, but when he passed away, his widow, Ella, sold the land in 1919, and that's when it really became Runyon Canyon. So who is the Runyon in Runyon Canyon Park? Well, that would be Carmen Runyon. He was a coal magnate from upstate New York who moved out to California in 1919 with his bride to enjoy the climate. Turns out that marriage didn't last too long, but he soon married Ellen Hunt, an avid horseback rider who loved riding through the canyons. As such, Runyon bought the entire property and named it after himself. Now, interestingly enough, Runyon didn't even live in the area that now bears his name for too long, only about 11 years. In 1930, he ended up selling it to John McCormack, an Irish singer who was world-renowned as a tenor. He developed the land, building a mansion that he called San Patricio after the St. Patrick, but he only lived here about a dozen years before he sold it to Huntington Hartford, who ran the grocery called A&P. Hartford moved into the mansion and the canyon and had some ambitious plans for the property that he renamed The Pines. He commissioned Frank Lloyd Wright and his son Lloyd Wright to build an even more extravagant mansion, but that never happened due to neighborhood opposition. At that point, Hartford kind of lost interest and he moved back to New York. And by 1964, he offered to give the land to the city of Los Angeles as a gift. However, Mayor Sam Yorty turned him down. Wow. From there, the property just kind of stood vacant and unused, and the mansion was wearing down because nobody was really caring for the land or the property. By 1977, Jules Berman bought the entire canyon. He was the man, by the way, who made his fortune by importing Kahlua from Mexico. Berman's plan was to raise the mansion and all structures on the land and build a huge subdivision of luxury homes called Huntington Hartford Estates. There were going to be 157 homes on this property. Now, luckily for all of us in LA, that was met by fierce opposition and never happened. Berman, of course, lost interest and he sold the land to ADOT Development, the last private owners before the Santa Monica Mountain Conservancy and the city of Los Angeles purchased the park in 1984 and put it to use for what it's best known for now. Rocks, canyon, trails, hikes, views of Hollywood, views of downtown Los Angeles. This really is the nexus for people in Los Angeles to just enjoy the day, cherish Los Angeles, and maybe see some interesting people too. It's worth noting that buried deep under Runyon Canyon is actually the Metro Red Line. Between 1984 and 1999, 2 parallel tunnels were mined deep underground that run from the southeast to the northwest corner of Runyon Canyon. And it's fantastic to know that Runyon Canyon is protected for the foreseeable future. In 2007, the Trust for Public Land purchased about 15 acres of Runyon Canyon for just less than $9 million on behalf of the City of Los Angeles and the Mountain Recreation Conservation Authority to ensure that there's no development and no obstruction of these beautiful views. Runyon Canyon is a great way to spend a day in Los Angeles. It's 160 beautiful acres nestled right in between Hollywood and Mulholland Drive. And now you know who Runyon is and why this is the most popular hike Los Angeles. All right, LA, it's been a minute.